We are developing our homestead, and one of the major projects as part of that development is building our dream luxury house. I'm sharing part one of how the construction of the foundation went down in this video. Hi, my name is KOREWAA. We started off by clearing the land and then we did a cut and fill to flatten the slope of the building site. The house sits on a steep hill, and so it was necessary to lessen the slope. It was then off to the lumber yard to buy the wooden planks and pegs that was needed to set out the foundation. The order arrived on site and the site manager inspected the wood to make sure that everything was accounted for before it was offloaded. At this point, we had almost all the materials that we needed to start construction. However, we needed to have cement delivered to site, and at that stage of the homestead development, we didn't have any completed structures that could house the cement we needed for the foundation. So I decided to erect a simple temporal roofed wooden structure to provide cover for the cement and also provide some form of shaded area for us to sit under to protect us from the harsh sunlight. So that is what we did. With the wooden structure completed, the cement was delivered to site and offloaded under the shaded area, which we then wrapped up in plastic sheets for extra protection from the rains. And now we were truly ready to start work on the foundation. Next day, I arrived early on site, and soon all the professionals arrived too. The surveyors, the architect, the site engineer, the masons, the laborers, and all. We said a little big prayer and it was all systems go. The blocks that were delivered days earlier had been offloaded in the wrong spot, so everyone helped to relocate the blocks for a small fee, of course. Almost nothing is free here in Ghana. Meanwhile, the architect and I spent some time discussing the house plan. You see, I designed every inch of this house inside out myself. So I wanted to make sure that everything is exactly how it needs to be. And so I was pointing out a few corrections that needed to be made. And with that out of the way, we were good to start setting out. The surveyors used their little gadgets to guide the masons to set out. Usually on smaller building projects, I leave the setting out entirely to the masons and the architects, but this build is different. This is a very big house with different dynamics, sitting on a land that is very sloped, even after the cut and fill that we did. So it was important to bring in the professionals to get the setting out right. But having said that, it was a lot of well coordinated teamwork that went on. The surveyors were picking out the points for setting out, and the masons were pegging the point and erecting the wooden planks according to the instructions of the surveyors. Occasionally, the surveyors would stop to do some calculation before they continued staring into their gadgets. Until eventually, at the end of the day, all the wooden frame had been completed. They marked some alphabets and numbers on the wooden frame according to what was in the house plan, and it was time to call it a day. We set off again to site on day 2, bright and early, to continue work on the foundation. On this day, the masons started off with the lining. They drove some nails in the wooden planks at the point where they had the alphabet and numbers written, and then they strung some rope from end to corresponding end. After the stringing was done, they used this white POP cement powder to mark out the lining that they had done with the strings onto the ground. This is so that the diggers know exactly where to dig. Kindly hit the like button on this video now to help me out with the algorithm. Thank you. It was a very hot day, so I sat under the shade taking it all in. It was nice to observe how organized it was all going. These guys have a wealth of experience. It's like everyone knew exactly what to do. Of course, it was all being done under the supervision of the site engineer and the head mason, so everything was going smoothly. Occasionally, the head mason would come and discuss the plan with me, but I had a feeling they were just doing that to make me feel important. I could just tell, but I played along. And soon they had the whole foundation marked out on the ground, and it looked like this. For me, all this was very exciting because it meant that I was one step closer to achieving this. This is what we are building. This is the dream. A dream that has been many, many years in the making. By the way, if you are new here, hi. My family and I relocated to Ghana 2 years ago, and we are currently developing our forever home. Kindly subscribe to the channel so you can follow along on the journey. Okay, so it was finally time to begin digging. The team had decided that it would be better to do the digging manually as opposed to using the digging machine for accuracy's sake. So we had several laborers lined up to do just that. Everybody was assigned a section and digging commenced. As the digging was going on, other members of the team were cooking behind the scenes for when it would be the break time for the construction team. I, on the other hand, was on the other side of this structure playing pretend.
Done in way. Go to kitchen hall. Okay. Kitchen stone way. Okay. Okay. Sapa pepe.
So the digging went on for about a week. And finally, it was nearing completion and looking like this. Soon, they were ready for the next stage of rebar placement. The high tensile iron rods were delivered to site and the steel binders were up next. So they discussed with the architect the different types, sizes, and shapes of pillars needed in this build, after which they got to work. They worked very hard, bending and binding. And in the meantime, the masons also prepared the ground ready for setting out of the rebars. They dug out the spots for the rebars and filled each spot with concrete like so. This was done to give the rebar mat a smooth, flat surface to be set on. At this stage, the head mason, with the help of the steel bender, then got to work setting out what will become the pillars of this house, all 74 of them. That also took about a week to complete. Concrete was poured after each rebar placement was done to ensure that the rebars were firmly secured in place, because any slight shift would have rendered the setting out void. So each individual rebar pillar was cast and allowed to cure before the actual casting of the whole foundation was done. And soon, all 74 rebars were standing tall. After the pillar rebars were set, it was time to cast the foundation trenches, but that required a lot of water. So we brought in another 10,000-liter poly tank. By this stage, I had attempted to dig for water and that had failed, so we simply got water delivered to site. And then the concrete machine arrived on site. The machine was fired up and the casting of the foundation trenches began. They kept filling the trenches, and I did my little inspections from time to time. This process also took 2 days to complete, and soon we had a fully cast foundation trench looking good like this. At this stage, with the concrete all cured, we were ready for the foundation block work to begin. Let me know in the comment section if you enjoy these kind of construction videos. Type in the comment section part 2 so that I know to do the second part of this foundation build. The foundation construction process gets even better from here on. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Kindly do subscribe and turn on the notification so you don't miss these videos as I release them. I appreciate you watching. Catch you in the next.